Hello, I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer with RealTime Fantasy Sports, and welcome to another edition of the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. I'm joined by Logan Glaser once again. Logan, thanks for coming on today's show, as always.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on again.
We're going to talk about waiver wire ads for week 5 of the fantasy football season. We do that every Tuesday, and we're going to do it this week again. Logan, the buys start this week, so we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that. Cleveland, Los Angeles Chargers, Seahawks, and Bucks, they're off this week.
For sure. Yeah, several teams on the bye. We also have another London game. I always like those just to you get football really early in the morning, so always enjoy that. But yeah, buys will definitely play an impact here. Less players to choose from in your waivers. Also, you're going to have some of your bench players might make an appearance in your starting lineup if with that.
I agree. And I think we kind of talked about this before we came on here. Not a lot of great options this week, and then you have 4 teams on a bye. So when I'm looking at players, especially if you're in deeper leagues, and I mean, some of the guys we mentioned might not even be on there on your available for you on waivers. Hopefully they are. But if they aren't, I'm going with guys with good matchups. Take a chance on a guy who might not be too high up on people's radars, but maybe he's the number 3 receiver on a team, has a tremendous matchup. Just go ahead and take a chance on them. I mean, do you have any strategies at all when it comes
Yeah,
to
for sure. I mean, like you said, matchups play a huge impact. If you have a guy who's 10% owned and they're over under on that matchup's 54 or higher, a lot of points are going to be scored in that game. So why not take a chance on them?
Yeah, definitely. So let's get into this week's waiver wire ads for week 5. So good luck. Hopefully you can get all the guys you're looking for. Give me your first guy that you're targeting this week.
Yeah, first guy I'm going to target is Michael Wilson, rookie wide receiver for Arizona. So I think he's kind of taking over the number 2 role in Arizona over Rondell Moore. Moore hasn't had a great start to the season. I was pretty high on Moore coming into this year, but he has just not looked great. But Michael Wilson has been phenomenal so far. Last week, he had 7 receptions, 76 yards, 2 touchdowns, 26 fantasy points. He's only 10% owned. On the year, he has 14 receptions on 16 targets, so he's got a good reception rate with that. And like we mentioned, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game that he's going to be in this week against Cincinnati. So I like a lot of points in that matchup between Arizona and Cincinnati. So I'm going to be taking a risk on Michael Wilson if I'm a little short on wide receivers.
Yeah, I like that Colin Wilson. He's really looked good. Like you said, I think he's going to move ahead of Rondell Moore here any day now. Moore has not been good, and he's another guy I kind of liked as well, Logan. So we might have swung and missed on that one, unfortunately.
Sure. He was a late round pick. He had a couple of good games last year, but then that injury.
Yeah. So my first pickup is Jalil McLaughlin. So I actually think he could be the top pickup this week. He's been getting some more chances in the running game anyway, but now Javonte Williams is hurt. It looks like he's probably going to miss this week, might miss a couple weeks. They're not ruling him out just yet, but I think McLaughlin's going to be the guy that gets most of the carries over Samaje Perine. He did that last week when Williams went down. McLaughlin played well. He's an undrafted rookie free agent. He had 105 total yards and a touchdown on 10 touches last week. So I think he's worth adding in all formats if you're if you have a running back needy roster. He has some potential in an expanded role, especially while Williams is out of the lineup. He's owned in just 7.4% of leagues on our site. All right, Logan, give me another guy you're looking at.
Yeah, I can agree on that. I think that he will be the top pickup this week with that. The next guy I'm going to be looking at is Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. He's only 2% owned in leagues, so he's available in most all your leagues. It's probably dynasty leagues that he's owned, but Burks was inactive last week, and he had a great performance. Burks and Hopkins have kind of been dealing with injuries each week. It kind of seems like one of them has kind of been inactive. So Westbrook has kind of gone into that wide receiver 2 role. 3 of his 4 games he's had 10 or more fantasy points. So he's had a good start to the season so far. And if Burks and Hopkins continue to struggle with that injury bug, there's a lot of room for Westbrook in that passing offense.
Yeah, Westbrook-Ikhine has been a guy that's produced some big games in the past as well. So he could be a good spot play if you're looking for some bye-week fill-ins. My next pickup is another Arizona Cardinal, and that's Joshua Dobbs. I feel like he's been making this list a lot for me this week, but he's been one of the real surprises in fantasy football for me this year. He's emerged as a legit starter in the NFL, in my opinion. And Kyler Murray, it doesn't look like he's back anytime soon. He had a chance to come back off injured reserve this week, and they're not activating him, opening that window. So who knows when he's back. And Dobbs has 26 plus fantasy points 2 of his last 3 games. He has yet to throw an interception this season. In my opinion, really reminds me of Jonnu Smith last year. Could he end up posting similar numbers? I'm not sure about that good, but it's just kind of the similar story in my opinion. A guy who's bounced
Oh
around,
yeah.
probably not as highly regarded as Geno Smith, Dobbs, but still he had some buzz a little bit early in his career, but maybe he's finally getting his chance, finally coming through, and maybe he could be the Geno Smith of 2023.
Yeah,
All
and it
right,
doesn't
Logan,
matter if they lose their games. It's just putting up points on the board. That's all you're looking for at that.
yeah, true, very true. Game script means a lot. Give me your last pickup for this week.
Yeah, last pickup is going to be a tight end for the Falcons, and it's not Kyle Pitts. It's Jonnu Smith. He's had 3 straight solid games. So Smith has only played in 3 games, and Pitts played in all 4 games. And Jonnu Smith is outscoring Pitts by 9 points, and he's played in 1 less game so far. Just been crazy how that offense has revolved. So last week, Jonnu Smith had 6 receptions, 95 yards, leading that Falcons offense with that. He has a great matchup this week against Houston, so I think that's going to be another really good matchup play with Jonnu Smith, and he's looked good so far. And he's only owned in 1% of leagues at that tight end scarce position too.
Yeah, so you give your backup more targets than your starter, who's
Yeah, and you take
makes a lot
Kyle
of sense.
Pitts at number 1, or he was a top 10 pick overall, and he's just
Yeah,
not been used in a fantasy productive role.
craziness. All right, my last pickup is Tyler Boyd. So I think he might be the second hottest pickup this week if he's available in your league. He's owned on 42.2% of our leagues. He's owned in 42.2% of our leagues, I should say. But T. Higgins fractured a rib. He could be out some time with that injury. So that means Boyd's going to have a bigger role. I know the offense has been terrible to date. The passing game in Cincinnati has been really bad. But Boyd has at least 7 targets, 3 straight games. His numbers haven't been off the charts, but the looks are encouraging in my opinion, and I think it's just a matter of time before he starts having some big games. So with Higgins sidelined, it's going to happen sooner than later, in my opinion. I definitely think he's worth adding if you're looking for a receiver.
Yeah, and he's been productive even with Higgins in the lineup.
Yeah, true. So we always like to give a streaming option for defenses as well. So Logan, what's a streaming option you're looking at for?
Yeah, this defense I'm going with, I think they're a top 5 overall defense this week. They're only 32% owned on RT Sports, and that is Washington Commanders. They have a great matchup this week, playing Chicago in that Thursday night game. Chase Young is back. They've had 13 sacks so far in 4 games, and Justin Fields scrambles a lot, which leads to higher sack rate. So I really like the defense to get after him.
Yeah, I like that call. Yeah, Washington. I'm surprised they're not owned on more in
32%
leagues. Yeah, they're a really good defense. Can really get after the QB. My streaming option's a little deeper dive, and that's Houston Texans. They're owned in just 4.9% of leagues on our site. They have at least 8 fantasy points, 3 or 4 games though, so some decent numbers. 2 games with 3 or more sacks as well. Interceptions, all but a game. They play the Falcons this week. I just don't like that offense. We're just talking about Jonnu Smith. Being maybe the second best pass catching option, and he's their number 2 tight end. I like Bijan. I think he's really good, but overall, I just think Desmond Ritter's not a great fit for that passing game and, being an NFL quarterback, quite frankly. So I think it's a good matchup for Houston, and they could produce 8+ fantasy points once again. All right, Logan, thanks again for joining me. Really appreciate it. A lot of fun talking about this. Like you said, there's buys this week, 4 teams on a bye. We have a London game as well. There's not 2 Monday night games, though. Is there any more weeks that does that? I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, we have a couple more overseas games. We got a couple coming up in Germany as well.
Well, so. I was talking about the Monday night doubleheader.
Oh, I know towards the end of the season, that's when
they have one.
Towards the Monday night, but I think we're off for a while, just one game for
okay. Sounds good. All right, Logan, thanks again for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jeff.
Good luck navigating all your waiver wires this week. Appreciate you joining us on the show today. This has been Jeff Paur with RealTime Fantasy Sports. Have a great day.